So, Jyoti, do you want to do a quick intro to yourself in a similar fashion?
I'm a electronic musician, have been since about the 70s, but in terms of semi-pro and pro since about 82 or so. But then I also started playing guitar and getting interested in noisier music in the 80s. So I've done a bit of everything, really. I would say, in my bio, I say, and I think it's true, I'm a mediocre singer, awful guitarist, not bad synthesist, and a medium good producer. Not I have to be careful, especially because Martyn's here. So I would say that.
I would put you up a notch on all those, actually.
Well,
Get Martyn to write your bio.
well, see, Martyn's one of my lifelong heroes. So me saying I'm a producer when he's here is a little bit embarrassing. So that's. But if you said what's my instrument, I would say studio. So that's my main instrument.
And that is where we all. Well, it's certainly where me and you, Jyoti, evolved from, is this idea of the studio as an instrument.
And everything for me is a folk instrument, whether it's a cave or a synclavier. It's a folk instrument. It's just been a bit maybe removed from people's ability to purchase.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, because when I bought my first synthesizer, that was like, I did actually try and play guitar, but it hurt my fingers, so I gave that up immediately.
Oh well, you've got to take him on my bet. You did take it on my. I've bet Martyn I could teach him guitar in 10 minutes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we talked about this.
That's a strong claim.
Well, actually, it was half an hour, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. But the reason why it hurt my fingers, I understood later when I did lots of production, was because I'd bought a Gibson SG copy, and it had very, very thin strings, which were like razors, right?
Wow.
But the irony is, if I'd have started trying to play guitar on an acoustic, a nylon, I'd have probably taken it out.
And which is what I did, yeah. I bought one for 15 quid, so.
Yeah, none of the...
Changed the course of your whole life. Who knows? Who would have,
Anyway, Jyoti, back to you. So tell us about growing up.
What, in terms musically or just generally?
No, I mean just generally, and what point did you realise music?
I was born in Orissa, and I didn't leave India till my family moved here when I was 4. So before the age of 4, I didn't really hear any Western music.
Wow.
So my first music were obviously all Indian, and specifically from Orissa, which is just a bit down from Bengal. It's that kind of region. It's the equivalent, I'd say, of like East Anglia, if I had to say, kind of region. Right. Lots of kind of seaness and fishiness, that kind of stuff. And so, but then my earliest memories are of music. I remember watching things on Top of the Pops. Must have been like 70, 71, which is ridiculously early when you think about it.
That's old territory, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was obsessed by it. There were bands then that had this sound, which I didn't know then, but it was a synthesizer. Good to say. One of them was Sailor, who did a song called Glass of Champagne. And they had this backbeat, almost like a German Schlager kind of beat.
Yeah.
But they had a bass going boom, 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 plus playing octaves. And this sound just obsessed me. And then I heard like Space Magic Fly, Jean-Michel Jarre, and then Kraftwerk, because Autobahn was used as a theme for a kids show on ITV, I think called Follow Me or something. It was some kids drama show, but they used the theme for Autobahn cut down. And it had that bit with the wobbly bass that would go bong, bong, that bit. And I'd never heard anything like it. And it was just, they made their own drums because electronic drums didn't exist then. They had to make them out of bits of metal and foil. And although, obviously, they use sequencers, people forget that Kraftwerk had 2 classically trained percussionists. So a lot of what you hear in there is what I love about electronic music, where you have the robotic, completely locked thing interacting with the human sloppiness over the top.
Yeah, me too.
Like for me, if it's all slop, it doesn't really work for me. And if it's all too robotic and there's no humanness, it kind of like, that's why one of my favorite bands from the 80s was Vince's band after he left Depeche Mode, which is Yazoo, because you had Alison Moy's amazing bluesy, soulful voice against the starkest Vince stuff possible. And that was when he was still on CB Gate pre-MIDI. So
That's
that
right.
had
Well,
that,
he was still composing like that when I worked with him.
yeah, and because it's got better timing. So for me, I'm a timing nutter. I want the electronic stuff to be really, really in time, because then it gives humans more space
There you
to
go.
breathe, to like.
And it makes syncopation work, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah. You need to know, and all the modern DAWs have got terrible timing. All the modern MIDI sequences that try and do it are out of time. You have to use decades-old gear to get actual
Right.
timing. But what this means is that there's a certain, and I'm very much, I became an atheist when I was 7. I became a communist when I was 16, 17.
Yes.
So I'm very much a
People, no bats around.
I'm a materialist. I'm a dialectical materialist, but at the same time, there's a magic with a K at the end within music that nothing else
I've
has.
just lost all the American audience, by the way.
and
Sweet. People,
oh, yes,
pretty slow.
We're all just bigger than America, don't worry.
Carry on.
So like it's that magic within music that if you're a musician or love music, or if any way you have a love of music, you chase that. For me, it's the closest, because I'm also straight edge. I don't drink or smoke or take any psychoactives or anything like that, because I'm wired for music, and that's the main thing that gets me. If I hear the right song at the right time, it just changes everything. And I said to Martyn the other week, the closest thing I have to a church is a nightclub. And
No temple.
yeah, it's I go to a nightclub, and I go to Rock City every weekend. And sometimes it's, well, especially lately, it's not been a great week. So when Duality by Slipknot comes on, and I'm shrieking along with 50, 60, 80 people I don't know, and the lyrics are, I push my fingers into my eyes, it's the only thing that stops the pain. It releases something into you, out of you, that I think religion has ridden on top of, but it's older than religion. Because music's older than faith, music's older than religion. I think music is this thing that is within all humans, and especially when they say, "Oh, I'm tone deaf and this and that," and they're not. That's a medical condition. People just don't practice. They haven't been brought up culture within a music. But like music for me is, I sound like a nutter. Sorry, music for me.
Sonic evangelist.
Yeah, you're speaking our language.
Music is, for me, is the only thing that when I hear people who are extremely religious, it's the only thing I can compare it to, because music's been there for me since I was 4 or 5. When I was worried about getting petrol bombed by the National Front in 1980-81, and I thought, are there any good people out there? Are there any decent white people out there? Is it just going to be me? And then I heard a song on the radio called Fascist Groove Thing by a band called Heaven 17. That changed my fucking life.
Zen.
Because that's, I was just like a 14, 15-year-old Indian immigrant kid worried about getting killed by Nazis. And here music comes along and gives me this hug through the radio. And it gave me this hug, it put its arms around me. And I was like, okay, so there are good people out there. There are people trying to stop all this. Fair enough, I expect black and Asian people to be against Nazis, but hearing white people say it was very important. Hearing allies out there.
And it's even more important now, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so for me, this is my thing, is I'm a music evangelist. I believe that if anybody lets music into their lives, if they haven't already, they'll get back 50-fold what they put in.
Let the music into your life.
Music is the religion.
And the first thing is if everybody just did maybe 5 minutes of just mindful singing or mindful drumming a day, within a month they'd be much better.
Oh,
and within 2 months. And I wish somebody could go back in a time machine and just tell me when I was a 5, 6-year-old kid, all these things, they just practice.
I know.
They seem so difficult, but just keep going at it and you'll break it. But you do have to do a bit of boring practice, but do a little and often. Don't do 3 hours. Because I learned violin when I was 7, and the teacher put me off for life because she used to hold, I don't know if any of you play violin, but you have to have this kind of angle with your hand to reach the notes on the things. So she used to hold a lit cigarette
What?
near the body of the violin. So if your hand goes like that too much, the wrong angle, it would hit the cigarette. This is a 70s. Looking back, I was like 8. I was 8 years old. So, I mean, even that didn't put me off the music for a few. Then I had keyboard lessons, but that's my basic thing. And anything I've got out of music, like, you know, I'm not a great musician or anything, but like that one song that I had that was a hit has fed and clothed me and given me shelter since 1997, which I think is pretty bloody good.
What a song, though.
But like,
Yeah, I listened to it again the other day in preparation for this. It's completely timeless, that song.
Yeah,
It could have been
like a spell.
It could have been brought out in the 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties, 10s, or now. Or
but that's because I nicked off the best, which is including you, Martyn. I nicked everything. All musicians.
This is why I invited him on. What a dude.
When I produced it,
You have.
when I produced it, I deliberately did it so I used 80s synth sounds, which I liked, obviously, 70s drum beat, because the drum beat is actually George Clinton, which is what I got sued for in the end. 1930s pop song, because for me, the height of pop songwriting was the 30s. I kind of think it's been downhill since there. Yeah, I like Gavin Berlin. So like, and then kind of mashed it all together, and then tried to have a narrative which wasn't one point of view, because I was doing my sociology degree then, and we were learning a lot about multilinear narratives, which actually felt quite homely to me, because they're quite Indian. It's quite a way of seeing things. The same as a lot of my music is based around drones and very repetitive, I guess in Western music we call ostinato kind of figures going on, because that, I don't know if I can explain this, it gets me high. Like if I could loop one bit of Numbers by Kraftwerk and listen to that for about 4 or 5 days till I just died of thirst. Because when the groove gets going, it's just the groove, you know. Oh Superman by Laurie Anderson with that ha 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 ha. Like I could listen to that sound for years. I could just waste away. Other people get bored. I don't understand. It's just the way I'm wired.
Wow. I did version for me. I'm not.
Oh, me and Tim were just talking about that the other day. I'd love to hear it.
It's really quite good. I did it with Vince Clarke's brother, actually, Michael.
Wow.
And not Michael, Mick. And it's pretty good, I have to say. I listened to that the other day. Again, I'm not. There's loads of stuff I've done. I'm not really. But,
coming back to that song, Your Woman, that came out when I was just going into high school, so 1997,
Yeah.
and that's just at that age where you're just starting to have that sense of identities being shaped in the world, and when music starts to imprint on you in a deep way. And I just remember that song, and I told my sister today, my family, that we were having this podcast today, and Laura said, "Oh, that song reminds me of getting ready for school," because Mum and Dad would have it on and we'd be then going in the car to school. And it's just, so that was for me like an anthem of that first year of school. And it was so many things. It was like a time traveling sound collage of pulling references from all these different areas of inspiration. And yeah, that was just for me a moment where I realized that sound has just this, it lodged in my subconscious as a song that can have so much power and influence. And I still remember it now. And it was a real formative part of my early teens.
Well, it's all nicked. It's all stolen.
All the best stuff is.
The vocal sound I stole off Trevor Horton's vocal sound for Video Kill the Radio Star, The Buggles.
oh, hero.
Yeah, excellent. Because I wanted a 1930s vocal sound, so that's the template, isn't it? And it's a specific thing. It's a very slight overdrive coupled with a couple of distortions, and to make it sound like the old that kind of that 30s sound. But everything is nicked off that. The lyrics are, one of the points of view is about me being a terrible person to be in a relationship with. So that's why it's so much for your highbrow Marxist ways.
What I think the hook of the entire song, apart from but I think lyrically, the big hook is "I Could Never Be Your Woman." It's right.
Sung by a man.
Sung by a man, because it's so of the. It so spoke to the zeitgeist of the time. People
It does more now. It's
have
weird.
it even more now, but I mean, it was not spoke about so much then. Like, really, it spoke. Apart from the fact it's groovy, right, and it's a good song. I just thought that is such an interesting perspective, and
I should have seen the hate email I got for that.
Really?
Oh my god!
do tell.
EMI got so many. There were paper letters back then, mostly.
Yeah,
But so much hate mail from people saying, "Why are you releasing this gay shit? Stop promoting the gay agenda." Blah blah blah. I don't hear this. And then people saying, "I don't understand. Why does he look like a man, but he's talking about being a..." I was just like, "Have you never read a book by an author writing with somebody else of a different gender as a protagonist? Are you unaware of looking outside your own embodied situation and maybe identifying with somebody else?"
it's like that now, isn't it?
That's what makes it so brilliant. How could that be lost on people?
Well, you know what? That's the trick. That's the gateway drug for the rest of the lyric, right? That phrase, and that's the genius of great pop music, and that's why that. Well, there were many factors, but I think that's one of the main reasons that appealed to so many people in so many different countries as well, right? So how did it do abroad? I mean, it was number one in a lot of places.
Well, I tell you, and I mean, you'll all know this because you're all, you know, the power of music and the hook. When I bought the CD, because I'd loved Dennis Potter's series, Penetrone, with the Bob Hoskins version on the set, but that was on when I was a kid. I didn't understand it. I just liked the tunes. Then I saw the CD soundtrack in, I think, HMV, bought it, and I recognised the famous ones like Goodnight Sweetheart, they're really famous and stuff like that. And then there was this track that was hidden away, and it was called My Woman, sung by Al Bowley. And I put it on, I was like, oh, I love Al Bowley, put that on.
You know this
and,
too? You look like...
I know Al Bowley, yeah.
And his version of Love is the Sweetest Thing is I mean, I think he's my favourite ever vocalist because his control, his emotionality is just... But anyway, this song came on, when we came on, it was like, and it starts off with that, Nat Ganella playing the hook. I think on one of my friends said a cornet rather than a trumpet, I'm not sure, with a mute. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, I'm nicking that. That is so catchy. And I knew it was just a simple... And then, this is the thing you were saying, I thought, I don't know if any of you think this compositionally. When you have a really catchy thing, you can afford to put some uncatchiness around it.
Yes.
So the sweeter the pill, the bitter the medicine, you can kind of hide inside it. And I just thought,
pop maestro, you're a pop maestro.
But this could be Crazy Frog, which again, I'm not, disparaging that. Pop music has room for everything. You know, you can have Free Nelson Mandela and It's a Bitsy Teeny Polka Dot Bikini. They're both valid, But like, I was like, I could make this a Crazy Frog and it could be like a novelty kind of hit based around this hook, which is insanely catchy. Or I could try and do something with it so people go, what the fuck is this song about? Yeah. And then my brain was like, I can't waste this. This might be the one chance I get. And it was the one chance I got. I was right. This might be the one chance I can get to subvert people and destabilize people and make people think, am I a boy? Am I a girl? Am I straight? Am I gay? Should I just have heteronormative relationships? Is monogamy natural? Doesn't look like it, but we all say it. This kind of thing. And I was like, this is my one shot. Like Eminem says, I got the one shot. You don't want to fuck it up.
Yeah, so but you didn't know it was one shot. I mean, you knew it was going to be...
But that riff...
was going to be really...
No, I didn't know it's going to... Because I'd been on John Peel before and stuff like that, and I just thought I'll just plump along as like an indie type band for ages. But I thought, this riff is so catchy, I can't waste it. I can't waste the chance of building a bridge, because the moment you step outside your bedroom as a musician, as a performer, you're trying to connect with people. That's why we're artists. We're trying to say, some of us are boner climbing the speech start saying we've got solutions. I'm more like, I've got no solutions. I've got loads of fucking questions. Is this okay? Is this right? What's going on? That kind of stuff.
You're a provocateur.
Yeah, I just want to say, do you think this is okay? Is it okay if people think this? If okay, this happens? So that's why I deliberately did the thing of what Martyn was saying about it has to be more than just a sample. The sample will take it so far, but it has to make people go like, why is this? What is this? And people also think, oh, you see, you went wrong there because you should have got a woman to sing it.
No way. He's the object.
And I,
That's why it would have maybe made the top 20.
and if EMI said that,
Yeah, but they'll wank.
But it was like, I'll be much better if you got a woman to sing it. And perhaps we put in a bikini on the front and a nice little dance app. It's like,
So conventional.
have you listened to the fucking song? It's about gender roles and you're just trying to reinforce them.
And that's the beauty of it. It was like a quiet rebellion hiding inside a pop song, and you had a moment, just like you say, you had the moment to disrupt, to get people to question things, and to stay with people decades later. So the fact that people are still questioning it now,
and it still makes people angry now. Still the hate mail now. The comments in the video, yeah, especially since all the trans stuff has blown up. The comments in the video, so much transphobia, so much homophobia, still way more than it used to be. It's got way worse if I
Well, we're a more right-wing country, Jen.
Yeah, no, people are coming out of the woodwork saying, I am a racist, I'm damn proud of it. And I'm like, oh, Christ. But the thing you're saying, Billy Bragg said this. Remember Billy Bragg's song Sexuality?
I don't know.
This is in the 90s. It was post, like, his 80s seller stuff. He had this song called Sexuality. It was him. And his chorus is like, sexuality. He won't mind me singing on that. And, like, and in his words is like, I just wanted to get big beefy blokes that were my fans singing about the sexuality. It doesn't matter if you're gay to me, that kind of thing.
That's great.
So if I imagine the same kind of overtly masculine presenting as very, very butch blokes singing I Can Never Be Your Woman, that always tickled me.
Well, that as well as it wasn't really a discussion about gender fluidity at that point very much, apart from in kind of very esoteric circles. Now it's like front and center, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, even to have conversations with my son and my daughter about this, and go, yeah, well, probably, we'd probably have relationships with men and women in our lives. They don't really think about it in the ways that we were brought up to think about it. And asexuality is a thing as well now. It's quite a big thing in that generation. It's interesting. Anyway,
I have ace friends who are completely written out of every pop song ever. Try and find me an ace pop love song, even if they're romantics, because obviously you can be romantic and asexual.
Yeah,
they don't see themselves in the culture. I'm just like the first ace pop star that has an ace pop song. There will be millions of people saying, "This is you."
That should be you. Come on, you're the
the leader.
Sadly, I'm only asexual by not by choice. I don't think that counts. It has to be voluntary, I think.
You're funny.
I'd love to talk more about your creative process, because that track was essentially a DIY bedroom anthem that topped the charts. You totally curated it yourself, didn't you? And it maybe gives people that essence of the true sound of power, that, gosh, things don't need to be polished to that point of like top pro studio production. It enables people to realize that anyone with the right dedication and skill set could explore this.
Well, it was done in my 9x9 spare room in my 2 up 2 down house that I owned then, which I managed to pay off because I was DJing, so that's the only way I was scraping by. And it wasn't a great room. It had squeaky floorboards, and I had to wait till the neighbours were out to record because it's a semi, obviously. So like, but like I had a little Tascam 688, which was 8-track multi-track recording on cassette.
Yes, I remember.
So not hi-fi, because you have to fit 8 tracks on a piece of tape this looking big. It's not great fidelity, but they did sound great and had a great little mixer and everything. I had the cheapest sampler I could afford, which is then an EMAX2, because they weren't fashionable. Everybody was on the Acai's back then. And I had a JX3P and a Moog my first synth I bought in 1983, I think, 200 quid. And that was basically it. Oh, and I sequenced stuff on an Atari that I'd got from my bass player because he owed me some money for some posters. So he's like, I can't pay you, have this Atari ST-FM. And I'm like, oh, all right, at least I can play like, Impossible Mission on it and stuff like that, Arkanoid. So that was all right. And then I found on the front of ST Format, I didn't find it was on there, this program called Sequencer One by Gadget Software from Manchester. And it turned your Atari into a MIDI sequencer. You just put the cables into your other stuff and it had a MIDI sequencer on it. And the Atari, what people now don't realize, I mean, I have Martyn on this, is the Atari had its MIDI ports wired directly, metal on metal, into its interrupt processors for its processors. So like, if you have MIDI now on a modern computer, whether it's Windows or Mac, it's below several abstraction layers where timing is sent out. Your computer will make itself a cup of tea, check the stock market, have a look outside and go, oh, there's the MIDI now, I better send that out. But it's very low priority.
Yeah.
The STFM, it was metal on metal. It was straight in there. It had the tightest timing back then. So when I started sequencing, I was like, wow. But that also meant that I could use one track of the 8-track as a sync code for the sequencer and use the rest for acoustic stuff. And have a bigger sound than 8 tracks will otherwise give me. So it was cheap gear, and some of it wasn't even bought, it was just given to me. But like, I kind of made the best of it I could. If you listen to the middle breakdown bit, there's a bit where the drums go a bit out of time with themselves, because I was gently tweaking the vari speed on the 688 just to see if I could get the samples a bit out of time.
Right.
So you'll hear in the breakdown, just to make it a bit different. Because gear's only good when you fuck about with it. You don't have to do what it says in the manual. You have to just go against all that.
What manual? my credo.
So yeah, it was. Unless you include Paul McCartney's bedroom and Prince's bedroom. I guess it was the first bedroom hit. I can't think.
Well, I think it was.
That is true SoundPower.
It is. Oh, but you should look at doing the branding thing.
Oh, the what's in the microphone was a Tandy PZM microphone.
Oh, God, they were cheap, yeah.
That was like all I could afford. It was like 18 quid, square pressure zone microphone.
Yeah.
But because I used to read Sound on Sound back then. Sound on Sound did a project where you could alter it to have a better response by taking out the battery compartments and using higher voltage batteries, so you got a better response off it. Right. So basically, I used to pour through all these magazines because obviously the web had just started in '92. There wasn't much about. Everything was pretty much still CompuServe and GeoCities and Inktomi. I think we were waiting for Alta Vista. That hadn't even come out yet. So it was a very, very early days. You couldn't find any information apart from magazines. But I would pour all through these magazines since I was a kid and make up for the absence of resources by being passionate and being super geeky.
Resourceful is the word.
Well, yeah, it's like my most old man thing I will say is everybody who is of a certain living standard in the world now has access to a phone with the internet, and they have the sum total of human knowledge so far there, and yet they'll still say to me, "How do you know the world's not flat?" And I'll be like, "Oh, I was like a Greek bloke figured this out with a couple of sticks 2,500 years ago. Can we just go on from that? Nobody thought the world was flat then. This is a myth now. Oh my God." But like when there was no information, you used to have to hunt for it. People would be so queued outside libraries and wait for a new magazine to come out. Now it's just there. I'm like, well, it's just there.
Here's the thing. It's like because we have an access to pretty much all the music that's ever been made as well, at the equivalent of the library in Alexandria for its time. And, we have, number one, we have option paralysis, but also each individual molecular component of this gigantic thing has less weight because you don't feel like you've discovered it. Yeah.
Like how much do you cane an album now compared to when you had to save it 2 weeks to buy one?
Yeah, it's true.
Like music is the most magical thing I think humans have ever created. And I mean that again, like with a big K in the middle of it. It's a magical thing that we don't revere enough, talk about enough, and certainly don't value enough for the people that compose it and perform it.
Yeah,
And
well,
without the composers and performers, where the fuck would any of us be? Like, if I didn't have music when I was a kid, I'd have gone out the window. You know, music's always been there for me, even when I haven't been there for music and haven't practiced enough, haven't done enough things, haven't done what I should do. I have to practice a bit. Yeah, I do practice, but like not as much as I should have done. I deliberately don't practice guitar because I don't want to get any good in it. But like when I haven't given it its due, it's still given. This is why I sound like a religious person, because I'm talking about music as if it's some religious force, but it is in my life. It's the closest I get to spirituality. You know, that's
done, yes, dig it. Have you ever done any ambient stuff?
I've recorded some, but I've never released it because I've been too shy to. Mainly because I know you.
Oh, shit.
It's true. I know all your binaural stuff you do with Vince, or this stuff you've done. I'm not going to release my own stuff.
Yeah, but come on. It's just horses for courses, isn't it? If I'm saying, horses, there's a good one. If I'm saying this horse won a race, so I can't possibly enter the race.
We want to hear your ambient music. Let us have it.
Hear it.
The dignity of human labour, Martyn.
The dignity of human labour. Well, if you're talking about Marxism, it's kind of like part of that kind of.
You know, I remember a young band of crazy people called the Human League who do experimental pieces of music. Nobody knew what the fuck was going on.
That's right. Oh, we were, including us.
And then they do a cover version of "You've Lost That Loving Feeling." And you're like, what the fuck is this? What's this like? Death?
Well, imagine doing that in front of hordes of rabid skinheads who were Susie and the Banshees and Iggy Pop fans. That was a different experience. They were just, I think we confused them so much they didn't know how to abuse us. They just went quiet.
So for me, the reason I love Martyn, and the only reason I know Martyn now is, this is another thing. The reason I know Martyn now is when the single was being was at EMI, and they're saying, "What do you want to do? That we're going to get some remixes done." I knew that this is my one chance to get to meet my heroes by cheekily getting to do remixes of my stuff. So I was like, right, can I have a remix by Martyn Ware? Can I have a remix by Vince Clarke? Can I have a remix by Daniel Miller?
There you go.
Sadly, never got to meet Vince. Got to meet Daniel, who's lovely, and got to meet and know Martyn as a friend, which is like one of the weirdest things in my life. I have to say that.
Said go on really well. I mean, he's just a very down to earth character.
But I milked it. I was like, right, I'm going to do this now.
Why not?
And Vince sent me this note back when he did a remix of Wanted. And the note on the thing was, it's classic Vince. The note was just like, here you are. I thought could do with some more melody.
That's brilliant. And I'll take that off. I've got a good story.
I'll take that off Vince Clarke anyway.
Yeah. We would with M17. We were asked to do some songs for a science fiction film in France called L'Unique, with Julian McGuinness-Johnson, who's like an opera singer turned film star. Anyway, not famous here, but and it was a very interesting film set in the future. Blah blah blah. Anyway, we wrote these songs, and the producer, who used to carry a gun in his glove compartment, complete gangster, turned up at the studio one day after we'd finished them, nearly finished mixing them, and said, yeah, it's not really doing it for us, this. I'm going, well, you should have really told us earlier, you know. And said, we're gonna get Michel Legrand to do it. Michel Le fucking Grand. He's like the most famous film composer in France, possibly, and songwriter as well. And we said, Big Mick, you know. Anyway, so Michel Legrand, it's a joke, you see. And anyway, we got so pissed off. Our manager had a showdown with him, and I thought, don't have too much of a showdown, or else he's got a gun in his car and all.
Yeah, a literal showdown. Yeah.
So they said, no, don't worry, we'll pay you the completion fee on the recording. And he said, I'm going to come to the bank with you and see you deposit it, right? So he went to the bank with the producer's assistant. They banked the check. By the time we've flown back to England, they cancelled it. Motherfuckers. So, anyway, that's my Michel Legrand story.
That's why with Chuck Berry, you did a suitcase and a gun, get your fee after the show. That's
Yeah, I could have done cash really, but anyway. Right, back to the serious stuff. Tim, you've been very quiet. Have you got any questions or?
Well, no, I'm loving it, actually. I'm learning so much. But what I wanted to say, just to pick up at the very beginning when you were talking, I have a bit of, might be in the balance about music education, the way kids are taught music and encouraged to make music. And I thought, maybe what we're discussing actually could really just open the field more to a bit more of a movement and a public proclamation that we do need kids to learn music more in schools. I really think a neglected thing, and probably, statistically, apparently they're academically 20% brighter because they're using both sides of their brain. But I think just in terms of the harmony of the self, the soul, the heart, the spirit, it's so important. And what you were saying in your introduction really resonated with me with that. I thought it's just such an important topic to.
I think I've got it. If I was the Minister for Culture, I'd have a campaign. Give every child a synthesizer.
Martyn for minister. Got my vote.
You could get some cheap ass synthesizer, and it would change their lives.
So I've got a against communist story to go with this exact thing that you just said, Tim. Are any of you very familiar with the Scandinavian music scenes?
Not really. Oh, well, a little bit, yes.
So, I've played in Sweden quite a few times. It's basically, I stopped gigging from 94 till 2001 because I got a bit bored. I was on stage, I remember thinking, oh, what am I going to have for my tea? And I was like, you need to reconnect with live performances. So I had a decade off, basically. And then this guy said, oh, I have an anarchist squat in Gothenburg. Do you want to come and play to my squat friends? And I was like, sounds like a good lad, yeah. So I think he was in Action Direct. I don't know if they're prescribed. They probably not. But so I went over there and we met other local bands there, and we went and looked in Stockholm as well. And I was saying to him, what is it with the Swedish music scene? What is it to do with your culture that you have like Max Martin writing all these hits from Britain to wherever? But there's also this huge underground scene of Swedish alternative bands. And from a punk hardcore side, one of the most famous bands is Refused, who come from a tiny town called Umeå, halfway up Sweden. And Matthias, who was the guy who was putting the gig down, he goes, oh yeah, north of there was all hardcore kids, south of there was all Smiths fans. And that's kind of what it was back then. And then there's another town spelt Linköping, but pronounced Linköping, which a guy called Tobias Forhair is from. And he's the guy that's in Ghost, who's one of the biggest bands in the world. I saw them recently at Birmingham Utility Arena, play to 16,000 people for 2 hours. He's on tour now till October with 2 days off a week. Huge, from a town that was like, I don't know, I want to say Ely, somewhere like that, from somewhere like Bury St Edmunds, the equivalent, like a London. And then we were talking to this band, they said, no, the practice. And I was like, oh yeah, it's practice room stuff, is all difficult. And I don't know if it's changed now, but it's then they said to me, oh yeah, in Sweden, you have government practice rooms. I was like, you what?
Yes.
He goes, oh yeah, the governments fund practice rooms for local bands. You book some time, the instruments are there, the backline is there, everything is there.
Wow.
You go and play in your band. I was like, what the fuck are you on about? You mean government? He goes, yeah, it's part of, the social contract. We have practice rooms to encourage arts, to encourage music. The same as we have classical programs where they'll buy your instruments for you. I was like, yeah, but only like a recorder. They go, oh no, you'll get a cello bought. I was like, cellos are 80 grand. You're not going to get a cello bought for you. And he goes, well, to get to a certain level, you have cheaper things, but then, yeah, you can get to certain levels of funding, apply for this. And then, because we want poor people to access music. And I just like, all this time, people have been saying cultural stuff, not racist, but like cultural stuff saying like, oh, maybe the Swedes are just better. Look at ABBA. Look at all these people. Maybe they're just better at decent pop tunes. And you could say there's a interaction between the Lutheran kind of church stuff there and their sense of melody and whatever. But it's also they get funding. They take music seriously. at a base economic level. Now, obviously, I'm a communist as well, because coming back to economics and funding for stuff. But why should we have to justify music as being of utility? Art is for art's sake. We shouldn't have to be forced to learn maths to a certain point.
Yeah.
Don't do maths.
Jyoti, what's the return on investment?
The return on investment is having a better society.
I'm only joking.
You know, it's like, I will never forgive Blair, first of all, for Iraq, but second of all, for bringing the fucking uni student fees in.
Yeah.
The amount of working class kids that's suddenly just like, well, I'm not going to go to uni then, am I?
I'm with you.
Because my whole music education was subsidized. I came from a really poor background, and in those days, luckily, there was, you know, I could get grants and I ultimately won scholarships. Without that, no way, actually. So I'm totally with you on this.
So I'll be...
What did they tell you to do, Tim? What was the careers advice you were told to do?
To become a painter and decorator. But
What?
No way, not really. Really? You're shitting me, really?
That was his option, his best option at the time.
He told me to be a TV cameraman.
career advice, and that was they look at you and go, you know, that's it.
I was told PR, which I kind of do anyway.
Oh, yeah, there's that.
I'm promoting us all right now.
Just give us the music thing and just do PR. You're really good at it.
But yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I'd be talking to random, then old people who'd be like 30. And I knew this one guy. He used to walk around the bus station when I was catching buses in there, and he had like 6 degrees. He's a normal working class bloke, and he'd just go and take a degree because he wanted to learn about stuff because it was free.
Yes.
And so like, oh yeah, and it wasn't just open university stuff. He'd just go and do a degree when he had time off work, and he'd do things. I think he worked on rigs or something, so he'd have time off to do stuff. But the pursuit of knowledge was in itself seen as being beneficial for the whole of society. Not those can you do with it.
Thatcher said so.
Yeah, and like, I don't know how old Tim is, but like when I first moved to Derby, it was 1977. It was Jubilee year, so it was 2 years before Thatcher got in. And the sad thing for me is, if somebody's much younger than me, they will think there's always been homeless people because that's how they've grown up. I remember before Thatcher, when the only homeless people were career tramps who'd shout at you at a bus station.
Yes.
You wouldn't see little kids in sleeping bags. You wouldn't see, because the first thing she did when she came in was abolish wage control for under 16-year-olds. Then she abolished like mental health placements and mental health homes. So that was when they invented care in the community. As in, get out there, just mind yourself, be fine. And so where does music come as a priority? If you're an absolute barbarian like Thatcher, savaging the heart of every social foundation, you don't give a fuck about music.
No, but
What's that going to earn you? How's that going to improve it?
It's not an absence of care, Jyoti. It's a deliberate.
Yes.
It's deliberate social engineering.
Yeah, breaking down of community.
Yeah, now community. Anyway, look, we're getting on to politics now. Let's get back on track.
Music is politics.
It is always.
Especially when you've got Jyoti behind you.
I'm with you. You can be music.
Certainly, we're aware that how music and the arts do affect society. You know, they are the herald of change. It has been so for millennium. You know, so we have to attach that importance. And
why don't we celebrate? This is the thing. This is the only time I probably get blowback off mine off this. There's always in every news section, whether it's the BBC News or papers, a whole section for sport, mainly football. Why aren't we celebrating the arts as much?
yeah,
I know why is it being compartmentalized into the upper strata of society?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's okay to have that in the Telegraph. The Telegraph is a right-wing rag that is respected for its arts coverage because it embeds it in that spectrum of politics and social status, and so you end up with people who think, I can never go to an opera, apart from the cost of it. If they were handing out tickets for free, they go, it's not really for me.
I want kids to be grown up thinking, I can do and say anything I want in art, in music particularly. I can like any music I want to like. It doesn't matter if I'm a girl or a boy or black or white, whatever. I can be into metal. I can be into folk. I could be into Liszt. I could be into whatever. and not have any kind of, and obviously humans love subculture, so people will form and say, your music's silly, it smells. That's what humans do. But I don't want them to be institutionally and systemically stopped from having access to things, because some things are just walled off gardens, and you can't afford to go to see it. You can't have that experience. If you love pop music and you're a kid, you're going to be okay, because pop music's going to be anywhere. If you're if you're a kid and you love, just classical music, it's going to be very hard for you. Very hard for you.
Well, I remember the story when I was interviewing Nile Rodgers. He told me, and he studied in Juilliard, and he was studying, orchestral arrangement. Primarily, kind of the jazz greats were his idols, And he got to the end of his course, and his tutor on the last day said, "Niall, you're very talented," and his ambition was to go to the Met and be a composer or be a resident conductor or whatever, or whatever, any of the great concert halls. He said, "You do realize none of this is going to happen because you're black." That was his tutor who said that to him in those words. So, and this is the irony. He, as opposed to just going, "Oh, I've just wasted whatever it is, 3 years," he went, "Okay, I'm going to take a different route." And that same week, he went to see Roxy Music play in London. In New York. Couldn't believe that, you got this big crowd of people dressing up in that kind of glam fashion, because he'd never seen that before. He went, "I want to make a band like that. I'm going to do a pop band, but I'm going to imbue it with all the knowledge that I've got from my kind of jazz orchestral arrangement knowledge." And that's exactly what he did. So everybody thinks Chic is just a disco act, but actually, under the bonnet, there's so much intelligence going on in terms of those arrangements and the beautiful transformational chord sequences. And
That's why it's very hard to sound like Chic. Very hard.
yeah. Well, no, but this idea of combining the groove with really what under the bonnet is some pretty sophisticated jazz arrangement. And if anybody said they're a jazz disco group, they'd go, "Oh, and that'll never sell anything." So anyway, just saying, there's many ways to skin a cat, isn't there? And it needs encouragement, but sometimes adversity can lead to creative solutions.
So I want to know more about what Chim and Cherub do. Tell me,
so we'll go at that.
Tell me the full thing, the full spiel.
So, well, Tim he's one of the founding fathers of the early sound healing movement in the early 80s. So he's one of the few people that actually brought therapeutic sound to the West. And he's been doing that for about 40 years before we met in 2010. And so he really was one of the early champions of sound healing as a field. And when we met in 2010, the sound healing field was very much in the esoteric arena at that point. So we came together, made a plan, and worked really hard over this past decade to bring sound healing up into the forefront of mainstream awareness. So, one of the first steps we did on that journey together, after we opened up a sound healing academy to teach more people like us to expand the field of practitioners worldwide, the second thing on the list was we've got to get in the hands of some cool producers. We've got to get sound healing. We've got to make sound healing cool. Enter Martyn Ware. And that is when we then made a really interesting soundscape together with him. And that was one of the first times that gongs, flutes, drums, bowls were heard in the synth.
With electronics.
Exactly, in the way that you guys know and love.
Yeah.
So it was a real revolutionary moment. We then went and performed that together in the Elb Philharmonic Hall in Hamburg. And then since that point, we've played Glastonbury last week, and we do what we can to fuse the ancient and indigenous art of sound healing, which is, of course, as old as time, older than religion. As you said, music and sound is the creative force of every origin and creation story across all religions, across all cultures and civilizations. And we're really passionate about sharing that knowledge and elevating sound healing more into the mainstream conversation. We want it on the radio, we want it in festivals, in clubs, in schools. The more people understand the healing and transformational powers of sound, the quicker we'll all find peace.
So I've got two things, one of which is quite spooky to say to this. It's really quite a spooky coincidence because I played a small local festival, Wat Stanwell Festival, a few weeks back. And it was half just acoustic guitar and me, and half with backing tracks. But for the first half, have you both used Shruti boxes?
Yes, we got one each.
Yeah. So like I've got an electronic Shruti box, one of the little orange ones. They cost like 4 million quid for some reason, even though it's just an oscillator in a box. I mean, it's made by Indians, you can overcharge for it. But like, so what I do is, and it's something I do because I want to connect with the audiences. So the last few gigs I've done this, I'll say to the audience, who here thinks that they're tone deaf? And people go, who thinks that they can't sing? I was like, keep your hands up. Who thinks they can't sing? And then loads of people do this. And I was like, you're all wrong. You all can sing. And I see people go, oh, that's right. Also, for the next song, I want you to sing along in the chorus for me. So you better learn this bit now. And I was like, this is a Shruti box. So I switch it on. It's mic'd up. So it comes out. It's like, I was like, now, can you all just sing this note? And I have the PA person put it loud enough that it's in their chests, like a drone should be. So they've got the drone. So then they sing a note. So then I say, now sing this. And I sing the octave. And they're like, and they sing the octave. And I was like, and now sing this. I sing the fifth. And I said, now sing this. And I do like a major third. And I was like, and they're all singing these different intervals fine. Because of course because the drone is there. And I was like, oh, so you're a trained choir. You didn't tell me you're a trained choir. I was like, now sing this. So I sing the tone. And then I sing a semitone below and then come up to the tone as you do in Indian singing. So half of it is I'm doing a little microtone, which for most Westerners is quite uncomfortable to go like, and then come up to it. They think is too dissonant. But I was like, just do this for me. And then they do that. And I was like, right. And then I teach them the chorus bit for the song, which is around the drone G. So like you can sing the whole song just over a G. That's it. Doesn't need anything else in it. I put other chords in it to make it softer for Western ears, but it doesn't need them. That's just light sprinkling. So it's very weird for me to hear you talking about drones and connecting with people and the power of music, because that's partially what I really want to do, is let people know that music is kind of inside them like a caged tiger, just waiting to break the shackles.
Yes.
And the shackles are there from society, not from us.
Because you absolutely hit the nail on the head of something we discuss so much, is that many people in our societies are shamed around using their voice and singing. And likewise, we've done a similar experiment with hand counts. And as you say, enormous amount of people have been muted for whatever reasons. And I share that story as well. So for whatever reason, I wasn't allowed in several choirs at school. And what we say to people like you, we encourage them. We say, listen, guys, you're going to do this. This is very easy. You're going to feel fantastic from it. And rather like you, I just echoing your words, actually, we say to them, guys, you're going to be singing like a choir that's been singing together for 5 years in the next 2 minutes. No, let me correct it. In the next 30 seconds. And of course, it's instant.
Yeah.
We do that. But I think, coming back just briefly on the music education, I think the validity of this is that it encourages self-expression, which is obviously, I'm speaking from my own experience here, and even how I got into the field of therapeutic healing music. It's something which I recognize to do for myself as a therapy as such. And it thus opened my eyes to the huge validity of this and how helpful it can be for people individually and obviously societies itself. So yeah, I'm with you 100% on everything you're saying.
Well, the second thing I was going to say is therapeutic use of music. I've perhaps taken maybe to an unhealthy degree because I know myself so well and I've been obsessed by music. The first song I ever, like lyric song for, was Glenn Campbell's Rhinestone Cowboy, which came out in 75. So I would have been 9 when that was in the charts. And I remember taping on those little piano key tape recorders off the radio and listened to it over and over and loving the lyrics. And I didn't understand them when I was 9. Once I'd had my first number one, it makes a lot of difference about being the successful kind of pop star, even for a short while. But I use music like most people use drugs. I have uppers and downers and maintainers. And, well, Vaughan Williams will do this for me. Well, if I want to weep, it's always going to be one of Eric Satie's O'Geeves. Because when I hear those chords, which are from 1890, but they sound like jazz chords from 1954. And I'm like, what? How did this man? And then because Satie was such a nutter as well, I'm like, well, he was insane and he had a great musical life. He went around for a while with half a beard, if I remember right, just this half of a beard. He wrote his own fanzine called, the fanzine was called The Journal of Jesus the Conductor. So all these fascinating things about Satie, because if he'd been born 100 years later, he would have been a punk, quite obviously, because he was off his trolley. But also, those very simple things, I'm drawn towards I think because I'm Indian and fundamentally I didn't hear Western music till I was 4 or 5. I think 3-chord songs are great, 2-chord songs are better, 1-chord songs are the best. So if I hear Roadrunner by Jonathan Richman, yeah, I'm gone. That's me. I'll listen to that for 10 minutes. It's just 2 chords. That's fine. If I listen to most Indian classical music, there is in Western terms just 1 chord. I mean, they're implied chords going through the things, but in Western terms, it's just the one thing. So when I hear things, they connect with me on this deep level, and I'll pick and choose a thing. There's a Bengali folk thing called Sandhya Mukherjee, and my parents used to play me her when I was a little kid, and they were all through their lives. She's from the 30s, so she's this Bengali folk singer. All the recordings are from then in Bengal. They record vibraphones, but they're just overdriven on the tape, and they have that Indian sound of vibraphones, which only Indian music has. And when I hear it, I'm a baby again, and I feel safe, and I feel so one of the reasons I don't drink or smoke or do drugs or anything is because I tried all that when I was a kid. I drank from 13 to 16 like a fish. I used to start fires at school. And it was fun, but it wasn't as much fun as music.
Yeah.
And then when you have, the right piece of music, and maybe it is a bit unhealthy because I know what to medicate myself with. I know myself with some music. I know my moods. So very specifically, music as a therapy, I totally get what you mean and this is why with my friends who perhaps aren't as musical, because obviously I've got a lot of musician friends, but the ones that aren't, I'm just like, why don't you just try playing bass for a bit? Why are you just doing it? Have a sing? And they're like, oh, I can't sing. I was like, look, I'm not saying you're going to sing for the National Opera, but just sing to, I always try and teach them 16 Tons by Tennessee Ernie Ford. Because it's a great song to sing in the kitchen. Or Down to the River to Pray by Alison Krauss. That's a great kitchen song.
Yeah, love that one.
Because you have and it has this, it's designed to bond you as a choir and bring you into this human space where, and I've never experienced because I'm not a sporty person, but my friends who are football fans tell me there's nothing like being in the terrace choir.
Yeah, it's true.
That maybe for a certain age and background of man, it's the only way you can express those emotions and not be socially sanctioned.
The day, didn't we?
With tears in your eyes, you can just let everything go.
Or just scream into the void.
Yeah, let the rage out.
Yeah, Cherub and I know that feeling as well. But you've reminded me of 2 things pertaining to indie music, which we often quote, actually. First is to describe how to play. And this almost describes your aspect of quite strict rhythm, but a freedom within. So we always describe it as freedom within the discipline, which is how indie music sometimes is encapsulated. Yeah. And then in Sanskrit, we obviously hold true to this expression, Nada Brahma, the world is sound. And that's, again, coming from that continent, that's that recognition of the potency and the power of sound.
For me, when I was looking into getting a pundit, a teacher, and I was going, should I get Indian teacher or Western teacher? Because the violins have been so awful. I had a couple of accounts of Indian teachers, and they basically said like, we should have got you a bit younger, but it's fine. And I talked to one for ages, and I was asking him, how's the normal teaching process? And he was saying, he lived in Britain, but he was saying when he learnt when he was in India, if you wanted to learn anything, you basically went to the teacher's house and you swept the house up for like 6 months or a year. And if you gave it before then, you probably didn't want to do music very much. So it was a good little test of whether it's all Mr. Miyagi. And then they'd start you off with just basic clapping.
Yeah.
So can you clap in time? If you can't, and you can't learn, you don't progress, maybe do something else, maybe something else going on. And then maybe they'd start you with some basic drone singing with a shruti, and then start with some few basic ragas, depending on what you wanted to do later on. But it was all based around, which I don't think West people understand, not writing anything down, because that's cheating. And this idea that classical music has to be about reading and reciting what was there before. In Western traditions, yes, but that's just one tradition. And the traditions which are oral and have different bases for passing down music are just as valid and just as complex musically. But I feel like people, unless they've had a proper classical education in the West, don't realize that.
Yeah.
Same as every musician I know, they go through maybe their pop or they get into classical tuition. Once they've learnt everything classical, then they try and play jazz. Once they think they've got quite good at jazz, then they try and play Indian music. So where's the Mahavishnu Orchestra or John McLaughlin or whoever, it's like, right, well, I've done that. I'm got this thing.
Okay, we have to wrap this up, unfortunately. We could probably... It's an hour, I'm afraid.
Can I do it? Can I redo it or what?
Redo it.
I mean, we invite you or keep going.
I'm trying to keep it compact
Oh, yeah.
for now, but we could do another episode. And
Yeah, let's bring him back. There's so much more to discuss. And the fact that the amount of knowledge and insight that has been shared just in that 1 hour, forget having a section in a normal newspaper like the sports section. We should set up our own newspaper. A newspaper.
That's good. Like newspaper, I like that.
Also, we didn't get into any other things. I wanted to know more about the other drone stuff, and I'm particularly obsessed about the tuned caves. Once I found out about the tuned caves,
we've done some gigs in caves. It's a
think how spooky that is if you're a Neolithic person. You tune the cave.
experience, yeah. Anyway,
Bring back in for tuned caves in season 2.
Well, pass on my contact details, Martyn, and let's keep in touch.
Yeah.
So you can
100%. I haven't finished yet. Although I'll ask you some stupid questions.
All right, got
That's it.
No. What's your favourite sound? Only short responses. It could be natural or a musical instrument.
I'm trying to think of something. Hold on.
One.
Is this? Hold on. Let the other two people go first.
No,
This is all you.
Oh, what? Oh, God.
Well,
So ask me something else. I'll come back to that.
You're in the spotlight.
okay. What's the piece of music that makes you most emotional?
Oh, God. That would be, I think it's Agiv 2 by Eric Satie. Like any time I hear that, and the first time I heard it, which was 1992 on a Wednesday afternoon, because I bought the CD in town, I just cried and then had to go and lie down for
Really?
an hour. I have no idea why. No idea. I still don't know why now.
Power of music.
That's the best.
These chords come in and they're just the simplest chords. And any time I hear them, it just unlocks. It's just Niagara. I just can't cope with it. The only thing that comes that close to me is Kraftwerk's Computer Love. But that's because they try to nick a lot of Debussy and Satie. They admit it.
Who's your favourite visionary musical or sound artist?
I mean, apart from this is a trick question. If I had to pick, I think one group of people that have done the most, it would be Kraftwerk.
Yeah, probably.
Because I think they've changed the course. Because all music's electronic now. or even metal. Everything's electronic now.
That's right.
Because all we do is rearrange samples in computers.
Brilliant. And finally, is there a piece of music that we've kind of touched on this, but
I thought favourite sound.
Yeah, go on.
It's the sound of a thunderstorm approaching and retreating.
Oh, yeah, beautiful. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And mixed with the sound of the rain. But as it's coming closer, and I live on the top of a hill, so we often get strikes here. House got struck by lightning like last year and caught fire. It's amazing. But I go out try to get struck by lightning. I go out with umbrellas and stuff.
I did.
But
Yeah, I recorded the full temporal range of a gigantic thunderstorm when I was staying in Virginia, in America, in the countryside. And I could hear it coming miles and miles, the infrasound stuff and all that. And it was just one of those magical moments. I had my Roland stereo, field recorder.
Yeah.
And he had every element. It was like I'd designed it, from sample.
Oh, I've got a better answer for you. Have you got 2 minutes? I've got 2 minutes long. Is it going to cut off? So the best sound I've ever heard, and I've actually written about, I should have said this first of all, is when I was very first in love when I was 20, and I was waiting for my girlfriend to come downstairs to go out, and she'd left the window open in the front room where I was, and this is in Darley Abbey, small kind of village area off outside of Derby, and it's across to the river valley. So it was a summer evening, it was really hot, and all I could hear out the window was passing cars and boy races, people at the barbecues, the odd alarm going off, and everything came together into this like symphony of different
beautiful
atonal sounds.
Yeah.
And I had 10 minutes sitting here listening to this, and I was just full of love to see her and happy to be there and waiting for her to come downstairs. And I felt like the whole universe had like made this little piece of music just for that 10 minutes. And I've never heard anything as beautiful since.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful description. Oh, very last question. I'm asking this question because I had a moment like this when I was when I went to see Janacek's Janufa opera at the Royal Opera House. Is there a piece of music that you witnessed live? It could be anything, where there's been like this moment of kind of transcendental perfection, not perfection, thrill, that kind of, oh my God, this is like a life experience. It could just be like a 2-second section. It could be a chord change but live, it's quite an interesting thought, I think.
I think it would be,
or an intro to a song, or
I think it would be when I saw Pixies in 1988, because that's why I formed White Tan as a guitar band, because until then I just played keyboards.
Right.
But I saw them, and there was just something about them then that, I mean, obviously they invented grunge, but nobody gives them the props for it. I mean, Kurt Cobain did. But like, there was something about the arrangements and the sound of it, and the fact that it wasn't show-offy, it wasn't technically adept, but it was so incredibly powerful and took disparate influences, and they admitted what their influences were, but then jammed them together to make something that knobbly and new and uncomfortable, which changed all of rock music for the next decade. In some ways, every band was indebted to Pixies or to people that copied them.
Wow.
And I wouldn't have formed White Tan as a guitar band without seeing that, because until then, all I'd listened to was electronic music. I'd heard my first guitar bands on Blast First, which was a sub-label that Daniel ran from Mute. And they had Dinosaur Jr. and Sonic Youth and Pixies. And these new sounds came in, and they had the chaos of early Human League and early Cabaret Voltaire. The screaming madness of Nag Nag Nag.
Yeah.
Is what I heard again in Sonic Youth and Dinosaur Jr.
Oh, man.
So, when your musical thing goes like this,
Yeah.
your palette is extended, and you're like, right, I can nick this now.
Let's end on that thought. In the world of samplers that we're in, I think we could good way to end. Absolutely brilliant. Well
Let's
done.
do it again.
Yes,
You need to
please.
go
Okay, let's do part 2. In a
Yes.
few days' time. All right, thanks everyone.
Lovely to meet you both, and keep in touch.
We will.
We will do.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.